in the SEC Conference. We're going to build the best football program in the SEC Conference.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
The kick, it's been blocked again! How about it? It's been blocked again! It's going to heat one deep down the field. It's going to be to the goal line. It's going to be gone! It's a touchdown! And the Gators have won the game! Kyrie Cleveland! How about it? I can't believe what I just saw! Dropping back to throw. Pops and fires the ball over the middle. It's Story! It's Story! Got a touchdown! Story got a touchdown! Oh, man! Story's got a touchdown! Amar Black, in his final game as a Gator, takes it all the way home and sends Urban out the winner.
You have now arrived at Stadium in Gale.
Boys and girls, ladies and gents, welcome to another episode of Stadium Miguel. It's your favorite Uncle Silk.
It's Dan.
And Delatorre.
Same corner, same time. We back at it, fellas. How y'all boys feeling, man? Had a good
Commit
weekend.
list is filling up. Had a good weekend. Went scalping this weekend too, boys. That was a lot of fun.
I seen you
How was
out
that,
there on
Dan?
the boat, man. What's up with
Scalping's a blast. If you guys haven't done it, definitely go check it out. It just opened. I was up in Steenhatchee. I guess Keith Niebuhr calls it the Hatch. But up there, my uncle's got a spot up there. So scallop season opened on Friday, went scalloping Saturday. Limited out, of course. But it's like an adult
Nice.
Easter egg hunt. You know, you have these little
I think we
scallops.
talked
that
about
sit on
this
the
last year.
grass.
You went last year, right?
I did. I've gone. This is my fifth or sixth time going.
Yeah, the one time I
No
went.
invite, bro. I mean, I said it
Yeah.
last year.
Next
Still no
year.
invite, man.
Next year.
I'll wait for that.
That's so
invite,
weird.
bro.
Feels like Groundhog Day. Feels like you told Silk
Right.
last year, next year.
Like I heard the scalloping story before. I don't know where.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just one of those things, you know.
The one time I went, did not wear like a diving shirt or like a
Yeah.
fishing shirt. No sunscreen application, and you're kind of just like floating on the water. Back was just torched. Torched.
Amateur hour.
Yeah,
Big time.
The thing about scalloping is that you snorkel, right? And you're only in a couple feet of water, anywhere from 2 to 5 feet, depending on where you anchor. But you just float out there, and you just kind of lose track of time. So if you're not careful, like Nick was or wasn't, pardon me, you can definitely get scorched. But it is a ton of fun. Right now, up in Steenhatchee, you're allowed to get 2.5 gallons per person, up to 5 gallons, and then I think in a couple weeks that gets up to 10. So know anybody in Steenhatchee or down? I think it opens in like the Crystal River, Homosassa area here soon. A lot of fun, a ton of fun. What'd you guys do this weekend? Happy
It's
Father's Day. So
Thanks, man. It was Father's Day.
Happy
man.
Father's Day.
I appreciate it, man. You on deck? You next?
Active measures preventing that.
Already, man. I just chilled. Did some work this past weekend. Saturday was festive, so I was busy on the timeline with everybody else. Good and bad, right? Good weekend. But Father's Day was dope. Had some dinner at the Bend with the fam. Rode along the intercoastal. Did a bicycle ride. Just kicked it, man. A little family time, but that's about it. And then we got a federal holiday today. I didn't realize it till like the last minute that it was actual federal holiday. I'll be unplugged a little bit. So happy Juneteenth.
absolutely, Nick, you're out in Omaha. We're gonna break down your the Florida Gators baseball team in a second. But
Watched a lot of
how
baseball
is
this weekend.
how's
Yeah.
Nebraska treating you?
Good. I think I'm at the airport hotel. I think I'm technically in Iowa.
Technically,
I already hear that.
Right across the border. But it's treating me well. This is a really, really fun event. Whether you love college baseball, like it, only like your team, only like your school, and your school's out here, this is definitely one of the best run events. The entire town is centered around this tournament. They do a really good job with it. And this is my third trip out here. It's like the first trip, I think I was out here like 16 days. 18, I was here like 4 or 5. I just had to rebook my hotel. So Florida won their first 2 games, so they won't play again till Wednesday. So I'm just like hanging, just on vacation in the dead smack center of the country.
In beautiful
what is this?
Iowa.
11 days, 10 days before my wedding.
Well, Nick, we're excited for you. We're excited for the Gators baseball team. Let's chat a little bit just so that everybody knows the order of this show. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball first, and then we'll get into recruiting. We'll do that in kind of chronological order there. But as
Sit
always,
patiently, the recruiting is coming, man. I know y'all ready for that.
just stick around.
Give my 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes of baseball, and we'll get to
baseball news exciting too.
Yeah, and baseball is exciting. The College World Series has been awesome. So, as always, quick shout out to our title sponsor, Alan Horn with State Farm Insurance. If you are looking for insurance for auto, home, renters, life, business insurance, whatever it might be in your insurance world, give him a call at 706-692-2888 or visit him at allenhorninsurance.com if you live in Georgia, Florida, Tennessee, or Alabama. Again, 706-692-2888 or allenhorninsurance.com. Allen is a former Florida Gators pitcher, which only makes sense to segue right into the Gators being 2 in Omaha right now after 2 big wins this weekend. One with an illustrious 3-run comeback on Friday, and then a win yesterday where they fought bases loaded twice in the 8th and the 9th inning to take home a victory against Oral Roberts. But Nick, give us the update from Omaha.
Friday, I guess we'll start with Friday night. You get a really good start from Brandon Sproat. Virginia's a really, really talented team. They led the country in batting average, in doubles. And that's kind of just baseball. They end up losing to Florida, then lose to TCU. They're out of the tournament. But Florida's comeback, just the way their offense is built, they're a team that if they're down 3 runs, they think, that's a walk, a bloop, and a blast, and that's
big sticks, man.
back in the game. Someone asked me before the Super Regional, is Florida's offense, do they bunt, do they hit and run, do they manufacture runs? I was like, their offense is hit and jog. They rely on hitting home runs, and they're pretty good at it,
bro.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
They're a fun team. So Friday night, you kind of get Ty Evans had been the everyday starter since the beginning of the year, and then hit a big slump. Has only played in 3 games since May 5th. He gets into the game, hits a double, which leads to a run in the 8th and the 7th or 8th inning. He starts off the 9th with a home run. Wyatt Langford hits the longest home run in the history of the stadium to tie the game.
Like 20 feet. Like, that's not just beating it by a foot. I mean, that's –
it wasn't a wall scraper. It wasn't a wall scraper. And then Florida loads the bases, and you've got a freshman up there. No disrespect to Luke Heyman, the slowest player on the team. So you've got 1 out, a double play in order, and we could be going to extra innings. He got a really good fastball. Like the kid that threw him, Jay Wolfick, also plays quarterback for Virginia. Two-way sport. Shout out to Jay. Threw him a nice fastball, low and away. That's a pitch that if you're too anxious, if you're too excited, you're too eager, you can be out in front of and roll into a double play, which, who knows, we might still be playing that first game. But he stayed back on it, hits it to center field, deep enough, Gators win. And winning game 1 is important. Obviously, if you get into the loser bracket after that, you're pretty much cooked. But then winning game 2 is even more important. And to put it quickly, shortly, Florida now is 1 game, having only played 2, only 1 game away from the College World Series. TCU and Oral Roberts, if they got to the College World Series final, they would need to win their next 3 games. So that just kind of like Florida in the regional when they lost game 2, had kind of exhaust their pitching staff to get to a super regional. TCU or Oral Roberts is now going to have to beat Florida, who they've already lost to. Well, TCU hasn't, but have to beat them 2 out of 3. And as I've said all year long, you like Florida's chances with their pitching staff to win 2 out of 3 games anytime they line up. So winning last night for the Gators was as important, if not more important, than winning that first game.
Yeah, game 1, like Nick said, Gators do go up in the second inning. They allow 4 runs in the 7th. They do score 1. They get 1 more run in the 8th. They do give up, I believe it was a home run in the 9th inning. Was that right? Or did they
Friday or yesterday?
Yeah, on Friday. It doesn't matter. So Virginia scored, and then the Gators do score 3 runs there in the bottom of the 9th, get a sacrifice fly to win that game. Brandon Sproat, 6.1 innings pitched, 5 hits allowed, just 1 earned run, 7 Ks, looked pretty good. Fisher comes in, gives up 2 earned runs, and then Brandon Neely gets 2.1 innings pitch, only gives up 1 earned run, gets a K, gets the win in the game. But really, like you said, Nick, the team looked came back from the jaws of defeat. I think at that point Virginia was a 45-0 or 46-0 when leading going into the
Virginia was 46-0 when leading after 8 innings.
46-1 now. Well, I guess they're out completely now. They lost to TCU there, and then yesterday's game, Gators go up 5-1. Ultimately, sneak out a victory. Shout out to Cade. Put himself in a tough position. Was able to. Our guy, the Gators were in a tough position. He comes in, saves the game, and then saves the end of the game in the 9th inning there too, forcing a pop fly to end the game. So next game is at Wednesday at 2 Eastern.
Talking about put himself in a tough position. I had big anxiety last night.
Yeah.
That so last night, that's super. I mean, they keep track of their mound visits. So what happened last night with Brandon Neely, I wrote about it. Brandon Neely's your closer. They 100% intended to leave Brandon Neely in this game, in that game as long until he either blew it or the game was over and they won. That was their guy. He earned that spot. BT Rypel, the catcher, goes out, and you get 6 free trips to the mound where you don't have to pull a guy. And when BT went out, that counted as the 6th meeting. And then Brandon ends up walking a guy, and Sully wants to come out. Hey, I want to talk to my guy. He just walked somebody. It's a big spot. Want to talk to him. As soon as he crossed the line, the white chalk to be in the field of play, that's meeting 7. You've got to go. And Cade Fisher, Florida's bullpen, nobody was up because it was Brandon Neely's game. So they immediately tried to get Cade Fisher ready. He said he threw like 3 pitches in the bullpen, maybe 4 on the field. So he's not even fully ready. And now he's in a bases loaded situation, tying runs on second base. He's 19 years old, had given up a run in his first outing on Friday, had a bad outing Friday. And the kid's just a stone cold killer. He got more angry that I didn't know what a red panda was after the game, and worked up about that. Then,
it's a red panda.
Actually, it's like a raccoon. It looks like a raccoon, but it's a panda, and it's red. They're adorable. Dan, if you can pull up a picture,
I can.
Red panda, an adorable animal. I had no idea what it was. He had seen one in the Chattanooga zoo, and the zoo here in Omaha was rated the #1 in the country just this year. Red panda, adorable little thing. When he showed me that, I said, no, that's a raccoon. And he got even angrier. So not sure what his major is, potentially zoology. It looks like a fox or like a raccoon. I think it's the same species or a similar species as an actual panda. When he said red panda, I instantly thought of.
I'm willing to debate this now. Now that you get a little closer, I'm with Nick. It looks like a raccoon.
It does.
It's it looks like a raccoon or a little red fox.
But you can't argue those things
a,
that may be a top 5 cutest animal though.
Yeah.
Super cute.
Definitely
I
super cute.
I thought of two things. First was just like an actual gigantic 900-pound panda, just the color of my hat. Thought, whoa, that's crazy. And then I thought of the halftime sensation, red panda, spinning plates. Did not think
she left the Lakers games, right?
Lakers, did not. Right? I don't know. Did not think raccoon, fox, panda breed mixture. So shout out to Kate Fisher.
I hope
shout out to Kate Fisher for the lesson.
You know you're in a city that rivals Jacksonville when the thing you're looking forward to is the zoo. I think that's something Omaha's got over Nebraska or over Jacksonville though.
I was told that there are the most billionaires per capita in Omaha, Nebraska, of any other place in the country. And I think that just has to do with Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett and who invested in his company.
That could be. I'm not going to fact check you. That sounds like it could be right just because of the size of the city and everything else. I know Bentonville, Arkansas, because of Walmart and Tyson Chicken is also up there. But most private planes per capita, Bentonville, Arkansas. A little fun geography fact for you guys.
Go ahead.
No, that was it.
That was it. Oh,
yeah.
I was waiting for it.
What do you think about the strike zone? Do they give these umps like a DMV style eye test before these tournaments? Or what?
So I don't know that it's happening now, but in the SEC. They were using when you see that K, if you're watching a game and you see that square, the K zone, they were grading the umpires this year in the SEC. So if I'm using my phone, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're thinking of like that as a strike zone, they told them to give a ball off of it. So basically, if the ball was like scraping it, call that a strike. And I think the first year that umpires knew, hey, we're being graded off of this kind of technology, they went, let's go smaller. So all SEC, we were seeing pitches that were strikes that we thought were strikes that were being called balls. So I think they went, hey, I'm going to make my strike zone now smaller since I'm being graded. That way, if I call something that I think is borderline, it's what they want to be called a strike. Now, I think in the College World Series, I think we've seen some crazy. I would like to see like a heat zone of what's being called a strike, but it's tough. We've seen some bad umpiring this year.
Nick, I want to ask you. I know some people on the internet, including myself, yesterday were a bit flummoxed of the situation that happened. I like that word. With the pitcher being pulled, Neely being pulled. Do we know post game if Kevin O'Sullivan was given a warning for having too many mound visits?
No, he didn't. When he was asked about it, he just said it was on him. He didn't get into specifics. If the umpire had told him, he wasn't trying to make an excuse and say, "Well, the umpire told me I'd only gone 5 times, and that's why I did it." He just said, "That's on me." And I think that might have been his argument in the moment to the umpire.
Right.
But when you looked at him and the camera's panning back to him, just like the look on his face was like, "This is on me."
Yeah.
I blew this. That's the kind of look that when I saw him, it looked like he was going to be sick. At that point, it was on him. He's been a manager for 16 years. This is his 8th trip to Omaha. That's kind of a mistake that a young up and coming coach who's nervous in his first trip to Omaha would make. So very uncharacteristic for him. But yeah, it ends up working out. You have a 19-year-old red panda enthusiast pick you up after a mistake like that.
Yeah, thank God you didn't cast any blame on Coral Springs High School legend David Kopp, who's been getting a ton of great TV time.
I've had a couple great conversations with Coral Springs High School legend David Kopp.
Yeah, so now you know 2 of us. Well, let's Gators will play the winner of either TCU or Oral Roberts on Wednesday, again at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We have
Yeah, I can answer that from Blake. So BT had gotten start with Friday night. BT got flunked Friday. He probably didn't care about that because it loaded the bases and led to Luke Heyman. But BT got hit earlier, so he had been hit like at that time where he got mad about it. He had been hit like 3 times in his last 4 or 5 at bats. So getting hit with a baseball hurts. Doesn't feel good. Probably didn't like it. BT looked and said something to the pitcher. The pitcher had kind of been chirping a little bit too. I have no problem with that. Played baseball. Dan, probably same thing in hockey. Silk, I'm sure you said some egregious things to receivers that were standing in front of you back in the day.
Oh, for sure.
It's part of the game. Let the guys talk. At the heat of the moment, there's only 7 teams left playing right now. Emotions are going to be high. As a catcher, and BT understood this, talked to him after the game. BT gets hit. He starts chirping at the pitcher. As a catcher, what Oral Roberts' catcher did was just get between the guy yelling at his teammate. He's not saying anything other than just staying between them. And that's why you could hear, I think you could hear it on the broadcast, the umpire goes, I got him. And then the umpire got between them. And I think BT was probably told to stop yelling and didn't. So he gets a sportsmanlike conduct warning. To me, I don't mind it. Like, listen, the guys are playing for huge stakes, the biggest stakes in college baseball. Emotions
Omaha
are high,
stakes.
Games tight. Omaha stakes. Oh, look at this. No, not a sponsor.
Talking about playing with words.
Not a sponsor. No free ads.
No free ads. Don't go visit them.
No free ads.
Now he with the double entendre with the steaks. I see you,
Yeah.
bro.
So he gets a warning because he's still chirping. And then the first baseman, and this is still just sticking up for your guy. The first baseman had to be like physically moved by an umpire because now the first baseman continues to hear BT chirping, and he wanted to get in on the action. He thought, man, this looks like fun.
Man.
Let me try.
So
that's all.
One time.
Yeah, that's all it was, Blake. It doesn't like extend over into the next game. It's not like like red cards or yellow cards in soccer. So he got warned, but I had no problem with anything that happened. Like as a catcher, if someone's yelling at your pitcher, that's what you do. You get in between them. You're not going to talk to him. Talk to me, kind of thing. So didn't have a problem with it. And I think both teams got warned as well.
What's the feel on the team or baseball college baseball culture? I know there's a lot of unwritten rules, but when we smack home runs, we tend to throw the bat back.
Shout out to Wyatt Langford, absolutely pimping that home run
for sure.
That's a top 5 pimp situation there.
Nice scroll.
He's Wyatt's not that kind of guy either. I mean, that's just a moment coming out. Florida is not Florida. You should watch. Dan, YouTube Drew Gilbert, Tennessee walk-off home run. This is becoming the culture now, and I have no problem with it. I'm like a weird mix of old school and new school. So new baseball, pimp it. I mean, you've got props. We're wearing chains. They're putting
all that.
They're doing all kinds of stuff. So this year in the NCAA, you can't do it on the field. You can do it in the dugout. Last year, Tennessee had a leopard jacket, like a pimp jacket. They put that on. They had that pink hat that said "Daddy" on it. They have to do that inside the dugout now. You can't do it outside the dugout. But Drew Gilbert, I've dubbed him the pimp job king. Yeah, this
is solid. You'll like this one.
This one, Drew Gilbert's getting hit the next time I see him. Looks back at their dugout.
It seems a little unsafe.
That's a projectile now. He still hasn't hit first base, I don't think. I don't know where he is. There he is.
There you go.
He's just take your time. So that one's a little egregious, but that was like a walk-off to win the regional. Now you're running super regionals. It's just becoming more common. Like if you're getting into like an NIL space, if you're getting into marketing yourself as a professional athlete, stuff like this, get your name out there and market to. Old school baseball, if you're going to do that, not only are you going to get hit the next time you're up, the guy after you, the next guy coming up to bat is getting hit.
And then we're going to have a run to the mound, a fight, a scuffle.
Yes. Yeah. So I have no problem. If I've been shown up as a pitcher, I'm going to hit you. I'm going to keep it under your shoulders, between your butt and your ribs. You're going to get hit. And like, that's old school baseball rules. That's how like baseball polices itself. No. I was not, I mean, back in Little League, but if that's just how baseball polices itself. It's like, hey, do what you want to do. Just know that you're going to get 95 in the ribs, and it's not going to feel good. And that's going to be, that's the way that the other team would let you know, hey, we thought you went too far. And you'll have like laces on your ribs for a little bit. But I don't think you're going to see that at this point, like guys retaliating by throwing at people because there's too much on the line.
Hey, y'all smash that like button. We appreciate everybody for hanging out with us live. Retweet it on your timeline, comment, beef in the comments. We'll try to address all the topics y'all got. I like the Elite 11 lagway stuff. We definitely gonna comment on that. My hat means absolutely nothing. It's just a hat I could grab right before the show. These guys know. I just had to grab a hat real quick because my head ain't shaved.
This is the
Drewski's hat. Could have been.
It could have been records. This is the Wensatachi Apple Socks.
The who?
Wensatachi. They're in Washington.
Washington State. Okay. Cool looking hat, Nick. Reminds me of something that Ty Cobb would wear.
It is 100% wool.
Definitely a Ty Cobb type hat.
So I wore it
in summer.
I wore it. Well, listen, there's a story why I'm wearing a wool hat when it's 95 degrees outside. I wore it Friday to the regional. Florida won. I wore a different hat on Saturday. Florida lost. Two of the people who work for Florida said, hey, you need to wear that red hat again. So I was like, all right, sure. Superstitions, got it. Wore it Saturday. Florida had to win twice. They won both games. They said, you better wear that hat tomorrow. Wore it Sunday. They won on Sunday. Haven't taken the hat off. I mean, taking it off, but have worn the hat to work now. Every game since. Florida has not lost when I wear the hat. So Florida, the people who work for Florida in marketing and in social are policing me wearing the hat.
Did want to shout out
to Vinny
Nardella.
Bro, my man was hype, man. Yeah, let's go, bro.
When mom makes pizza rolls, the Wyatt Langford celebration. Shout out to him. Vinny Nardella is the official title's Assistant Director of Creative Media and Branding. Does a lot with football and baseball as well. Shout out to them, and keep telling them they appreciate hearing when a pitcher should be taken out, when they should change the batting order. They have a direct line right down to Kevin O'Sullivan. So just keep tweeting at them. Let them know your thoughts on the team. All right, gentlemen.
Real quick, shout out to all of those people. They work really hard, from content to marketing to social. Florida baseball has had awesome audio, visual, creative content all season long. There's two Vinnies. There's Sullivan Bortner and a whole team of people.
Two Vinnies sound like a pizza spot.
Yeah.
It sure does. All right, gentlemen, we are about to get into recruiting. But before we do that, support our student athletes by going to visit the Gataverse.io. That's GATAVERSE.io is the Florida Gators' newest NIL platform where you can directly support athletes from many of Florida's major sports. So go give them a look at Gataverse.io. They also have their basketball team in that TBT tournament competing for $1 million, led by head coach Matt McCall, who we had on the show a few weeks ago. And then I think they just announced Walter Hodge, Igor Kulichev, a few others this week as well. So go check them out, Gataverse.io. Gentlemen, what a week in recruiting. The Gators grab 6 commitments this week. So let's do them in order. And who knows? Maybe let's do short minutes. There might be 7.
I was about to say, do we kind of talk the because at 11 o'clock we have an announcement.
All right. Well, let's talk
right
some of the other things first, right? Let's talk Elite 11.
Right.
We were a number of quarterbacks headed out. I think it was 25 or so headed out to California this week for the Elite 11. DJ Lagway was featured in that final group of 11. But Silk, want to get your thoughts on Elite 11. I know you had a lot. I know you paid a bit more closer attention than I did. So give us your thoughts on Elite 11.
I paid more attention to it than you did, but it wasn't a whole ton, man. Didn't see a whole lot of live throws. I saw whatever clips they had on social media, but just was following it when it pertains to the rankings that they drop daily from the actual Elite 11 site. I thought he did, from what I saw, he ranked in day one. I think he came in like 7th or 8th or something like that. Day 2, he did really well. Some people say he was the best out there that day. Day 3, which was the final day of the 7-on-7, he struggled that day and came in dead last in that event. From the reporters out there were people saying that he was the last quarterback to go. His receivers were exhausted, half running routes. There's a lot of drops. There's actually receivers on the other side of these incompletions as well. So overall, I think he did great out there. He finished in the Elite 11. He hasn't been the best camper. He has a lot of tools and he's a lot of upside. And I don't think he's as raw as AR or anything like that. I think he's going to come in college ready, in my opinion. Still some development that has to happen, but camp atmosphere isn't, the best suited. You look at the people that won the Elite 11, that resume, that it ain't prestigious when it pertains to who's won it. So I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into camp, but I thought he did good out there. I don't think he did terrible. He finished in the Elite 11. He just struggled that last day, and I didn't expect him to do anything marvelous. He hasn't really killed the camp circuit, I would say. He's impressed as far as his traits and his size, but I don't know how many MVPs and things he's won doing these camps.
Yeah, the Bruce Feldman was quoted after saying that physically, obviously an imposing quarterback, does need some work on his feet, but other than that, looked good. Like you said, Silk, there's other people that are involved. If you're running the same wide receivers for 20 some odd quarterbacks, obviously towards the end, they're going to get tired no matter how good they are and everything else. Not making excuses. Obviously we weren't there, but to be listed in that final 11 is obviously the honor you want.
Running down on Kirby a little bit here too.
Ooh, boy. All right. Well, let's get into that. Do want to say on 3 gave DJ Lagway with the most college ready build at 6'2.5", 230 pounds. So does get that superlative from on 3. With that news, we were going to go in chronological order, but the Gators did just land a commitment of 2024 defensive lineman Micah Boyru, 6'5", 360-pound defensive lineman from Fairburn, Georgia. Gators beat out none other than the hometown Georgia Bulldogs, Michigan Wolverines, and Auburn Tigers. He was quoted saying, "Gainesville, I'm home, baby." Big get for the Florida Gators on the defensive line.
Literally
6'5", 360 pounds. He is ranked a composite 3-star. I can see that going up. Silk, you are very widely known for saying follow the offers and follow the recruiting rather than just the ranking itself. But the Gators do grab Micah Boyru right now. That is the 7th commitment in just 1 week for the Florida Gators. Silk, any thoughts on Micah before we backtrack all the way back 1 week and 6 commitments ago?
What do you say?
Any thoughts on him? Or
oh yeah, man, big time, man. I got him as a one tech nose tackle. We eating in the trenches right now. Spencer is absolutely doing his thing, bringing a lot of wild dogs in. The big dogs is really barking right now. I know they had the little chihuahuas making a lot of noise this offseason, but when you turn on the rankings on any website right now, at the end of the day, when today's over, we're going to be top 5 regardless of the site. But I think this is an absolutely great get. You run down on Kirby, who took our running back from our backyard. So you go to their backyard. And I know how much Kirby and that whole regime, Muschamp and all those guys, how much they view and value the trenches. A very good guy, and like you said, Dan, with the 3-star, wouldn't get caught up in that. I do think like most of the defenses, it's hard to grade defensive tackles at that level. You'll end up giving out a shitload of 4 stars because they're just bigger than everybody they're playing, right? So I get that why some of these guys are 3 stars because they want to see them compete. You know, they're just bigger than everybody. If you're 6'5", 300 pounds, every week you're gonna be pushing over a kid that's smaller than you. So it's hard to gauge and measure it. But absolutely a huge get. He visited Georgia last. You know, Georgia got the last visit. That made me nervous. I was like, man, I don't know if we're gonna be able to overcome that. They hot right now. People saying Georgia could get whoever they want. Kid went out there, left, and said, nah, man, I know I'm a Georgia kid. I know Kirby want me. They back to back, but I'm gonna go down to the swamp and vibe with them folks.
Absolutely. No. And we've talked about it a few weeks ago. I think everybody wanted all of the commitments to happen the way that they did on Saturday. And that's just not the way it's going to happen every single time, right? Kids are going to want to go when they deserve the opportunity and the right to go visit other schools, make sure that they're firm in their commitment. That's what you want, right? You want a kid to go visit multiple schools, make his commitment rather than make a commitment and then go visit schools along the way, because then you're sweating that the whole time. But Micah Boyru, great get, shoved Kirby Smart in the locker where he belongs, but great get for the Florida Gators live on Stadium and Gale. We don't get that opportunity very often. So Silk, let's go back 1 week ago. The Gators grabbed offensive tackle Mike Williams. I think he's a guy that can play guard as well. I think Florida's recruiting him as a guard. 3-star Gators offered him a few weeks ago. He was previously committed to South Carolina, immediately decommitted, came to visit Florida. 6'5", 310 pounds, from Charles Herbert Flowers High School in Baltimore, Maryland. Silk, I've heard you say that his parents live in Orlando. Gators beat out Miami, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Maryland, a few others for him. Rob Sale and Darnell Stapleton just shoving Alex Mirabal in a locker. So had an offer from USC, North Carolina State, Michigan State, Tennessee. The list goes on and on. But that's the first commit. Gators desperately needed help on the offensive line. Gators really have leveraged a lot of salary and coaches in offensive line. So to get a recruit that the Gators desperately needed was a big get for the Gators last Monday.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that take. Do want to see nothing against Mike, and I like Mike's energy on the timeline as well. Him recruiting other kids and just been following his tweets or whatever. But I want to see. As far as, I'm not mad at the kids we're getting. The offers are good, so you want to be in competition with the programs that we are in competition with some of these kids. But I want to see the star average, because all of that, we could talk about ranking services and the stars, and they don't matter, but they do. You know what I'm saying? So I do want to see that star average on the offensive line side of the ball go up, especially when you got 2 guys recruiting that position. That's my overall take on just offensive line. But I thought that was a really good get to get one from an SEC competitor. South Carolina was still trying to keep him in the fold to the very end. They was trying to get him back in.
We just need to turn the heat up a little bit on him, like we did Jay Bateman last year, right?
Are we now putting respect on Jay Bateman's name?
We are. The
best linebacker class ever right now. I'm telling you, on paper so far.
So far, and it might not be over. Gators still recruiting a few other linebackers right now. If you look at 247 Sports, which I think is the only one that ranks recruiter rankings, he is just behind the Georgia defensive coordinator. I'm trying to remember. Anyway, Jay Bateman is the number 2 recruiter in the country right now. We're going to dive into what he's been able to secure over the last few weeks here in a second. But after Mike Williams committed on Monday, the Gators, I believe on Tuesday, grabbed the number 1 player in the country. Not in the United States. It was in Germany.
Which country?
But the Gators grabbed the number 1 overall player in Germany. They grabbed offensive tackle Noel Portnejian. Portnejian. We're going to have to work on that pronunciation. My German's a little off. but a 3-star offensive tackle, 6'5", 315 pounds. Mother's a professional ballroom dancer, is my understanding, Silk, huh?
I'm glad you said ballroom because Steve Whitphone just said dancer and everybody thought she was some other type of dancer. But yeah, great footwork. Ballroom dancing is a little athleticism, right? Good job.
Well,
yeah. Dan is a semi-professional ballroom dancer.
I am. You guys want to know a fun little story? It pertains to
Dandy fact.
It pertains to all of you right now. My grandfather and grandmother were professional ballroom dancers and met in Iowa, where you are,
Wow.
Nick. They were both traveling. They partnered up, and the rest you can say is history. But professional ballroom dancers.
That's insane that you got like none of that passed down to you.
None of that passed down to me. It skips a few generations.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. But the Gators grab him. Again, a name. I know a lot of people have not probably heard, but visited Liberty, I believe, South Carolina, and Auburn. Got offers from all of them. Obviously visited Florida a couple weeks back. The Gators grab him. 3-star guy, a guy that I think you're going to start to see. Obviously more film is going to come out, but probably not a guy that's ever going to climb too high on their rankings, simply because of where he plays. But from Schwabish Hall, the Gators grab Noel Port Jagin. If somebody knows the pronunciation in the chat, please feel free to give me a correction there. In between that news and what happened on Saturday evening, class of 2025 quarterback commit Austin Simmons decommitted and committed and reclassified to go to Ole Miss. He will be enrolling there in a few weeks. Obviously, this leads into a much bigger discussion, so I want to talk a little bit before that. Before we do, I want to tell you to go follow our friends over at Home Field Apparel. Go visit homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code Stadium and Gale, all one word. Have about 15 plus different Florida Gators vintage T-shirts that you can buy. Track and field, golf, football, some of the old retro logos. So go check out our friends over at homefieldapparel.com. Use promo code Stadium and Gale. So I want to discuss this issue a little bit more holistically with Austin Simmons. I think it was on Wednesday, Keith Niebuhr put out a report behind a paywall saying that it looked good for the Florida Gators to get Austin Simmons to not only reclassify, but to enroll. On Thursday, Josh Newberg and On3 put out a 20-minute video based, I believe, just on that information that Austin Simmons would be reclassifying into the class of 2023 and would be enrolling at UF. Some things happened over the next few hours. That video was deleted. There was a lot of confusion, a lot of fans, obviously with their hands in the air, wondering what happened. And then Saturday morning, he does make the flip over to Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Want to get y'all's thoughts on the issue, big picture wise, and then dive into how it impacts Florida.
I mean, you wanted a 23 quarterback. That's what we was trying to get right there. He was originally committed to 25. Billy Napier spoke on adding a quarterback to this class. So you want to add and make up for that Jaden Rashada miss. I thought that was an important, task for us. So to get him to reclassify, and kids going to make decisions. I'm never going to get upset about any kid's decision, whether it's Chauncey Bowens, Austin Simmons, or anybody. We're going to flip some kids. We're going to get some kids that we ain't supposed to get, and some people going to snatch some kids that they didn't supposed to get, or we thought we was going to land. It's just how this works. It's part of the business. I think the media around it, and I never said in any of my content or any of my tweets that the kid's decision was affected by any report, which could happen. That could be a thing, right? But I'm not saying that's what happened. I think his dad, I know his dad already came out and explained their decision to go to Ole Miss, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But this is the second time with Jaden Rashada, and now with this, and there's more things around media where people are throwing things out there early, and it's sabotage stuff. The fans aren't naive, we're all adults. We're not on no conspiracy stuff. these are educated people that are on some of these message boards, and some of us fans that are following this, we can easily see that there's blatant sabotage. It ain't got nothing to do with the kid's decision, but if there's a Florida State fan that works at On3, he's doing things to sabotage the perception. It's one thing for a kid to flip, and it's another thing for the overall perception of news got out, all of these articles. And my point of view, this is how I view it. Whether it's Hayes Fawcett, whether it's Josh Newberg, those guys break stories when it pertains to committing or whatever decision these kids are making. And when they break these stories, other outlets, whether it don't matter who it is, I don't have to say their names, but whether it's Twitter, YouTubers, everybody runs their stories after the news break. So when you break that Austin Simmons is reclassified and he's enrolling from On3, from a site that has been breaking college football news, everybody runs with it. It's a big thing. You got a 20-minute video. I don't know what you could talk about for 20 minutes on this topic. I don't have 20 minutes of audio on that. You know what I'm saying? And mine was like 3. But 20 minutes of audio to talk about something that a bunch of people are going to see, it gets deleted. There's no accountability. I think that made a whole different type of perception when it pertains to the University of Florida than just a flip. Same thing with the Jaden Rashada. That got out early, and we can say it don't affect these kids' decision, but that's false. Anything that gets out early, public perception gets on it. Also, another coach at a different program could get wind of things. So we're not going to act like things getting out early can't dictate a decision.
I think I'm also reminded of last year with A.J. Harris, who was potentially silently committed to Florida. Some word got out, a bunch of crystal balls started to roll in, kind of ruined a potential announcement. That gets delayed. Obviously goes on some visits and, enrolls elsewhere. But obviously it doesn't seem to be a great look. There does seem to be some animosity maybe towards Florida or, not keeping the cat in the bag over certain stories and certain situations. But again, a tough look for Florida. I know his father was quoted in, I think it was a Palm Beach Post article saying that Florida's schedule was too tough and that they seem to be all in on DJ Lagway. A couple things. One, Ole Miss, of course, plays in the same conference as Florida. And 2, I think when you look at DJ Lagway, there's obvious reasons to be excited about him. You go to Ole Miss, they have a whole litany of quarterbacks there, including, a former 5-star in Walker Hayes that just transferred. They get the Oklahoma State transfer. They get another transfer in as well. There's a lot of talent in that room too. You're still 17 years old. You're going to go in and you're going to have to compete. But for a guy that said, academics were really important, Ole Miss is not winning a ton of awards in the academic front. The quarterback room is probably just as gaudy, and Lane Kiffin's going to keep going after top flight quarterbacks as well. So it's a unfortunate loss. I know that Billy Napier on his speaking tours had been talking about Florida having a 2023 quarterback that would be joining. Obviously that no longer seems to be the case. And now Florida, does miss on 2 quarterbacks that could have been in this class over situations that just seem, I'm not pointing blame at anybody. Sometimes things just happen, but definitely fumbled 2 quarterbacks there.
We need to start vetting dads. We need to start. we need a dad vetting service, bro.
Dad vetting service. Nick, what are your thoughts?
Austin Simmons was that quarterback that Billy kept talking about. I think we even talked about this on the show. They brought Austin in and DJ in on the same week to talk about it, make sure everyone was on the same page. I think I'd said on this podcast, to me, it does not make any sense for Austin Simmons to reclassify, come to Florida, and get ahead of DJ Lagway. You're not going to play in 2023. And then me personally, I think DJ Lagway is better. That could turn out to be wrong, but I think DJ Lagway is better. So to me, it didn't make any sense to get ahead of DJ Lagway at Florida. I thought it was a great move for Florida because they wanted a quarterback in the class of 23, right, but a bad move for the player.
We talked about that in our group chat as well. Like we was like, that's a brave decision, Cotton.
Yeah, bold move, Cotton.
Bold move, Cotton.
So I didn't understand that, but as far as we're concerned, like Keith didn't put anything out on our message board that we hadn't said on this podcast. Like
right.
Austin Simmons, we anticipate him coming to Florida in the class of 23.
It was like the worst kept secret, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's like it had been talked about. I think as a reporter, we were trying to be like cautious when writing it and talking about it and being like expected to, even though it was like going to in our minds, we would just say, hey, he's expected to reclassify or can reclassify. It's a crowded room in Oxford, but I don't think they have somebody like DJ Lagway coming in. So in terms of Austin Simmons making the best decision, I think he probably made a better decision for himself going to Ole Miss. And I think some of the dad's comments in that newspaper story were wild, talking about like competition and stuff like that. Those are, I mean, maybe you're just saying the quiet, maybe you're just saying the quiet part out loud. But he's also, I think, I was talking to a guy at a staffer at Ole Miss, and I was like, dude, I think you guys might have a better baseball player in your hands. I still think Austin Simmons might be a better pitching prospect. And that's not saying he's bad at football. I just think he's 17 years old and throws a 94-mile-an-hour fastball already from the left side. I think he's got some legit stuff on the baseball diamond, a legit two-way prospect.
Well, that news was lived in the Gators' mind after they rattle off 4 commitments on Saturday.
Man.
Just an absolute avalanche of good news.
Hey, man, this coaching staff, we've said before, this coaching staff understands the media cycle.
Yeah, I told you last time. Keep some good PR in the tuck, man. You got to keep that thing loaded. Yeah.
The Gators grabbed first, I think it was late morning, early afternoon on Saturday, 6'5", 210-pound from Portal High School in Portal, Georgia, tight end Amir Jackson, ranked as the 130th overall player, the number 10 prospect at the position, the number 20 player overall in the state of Georgia. Also a basketball player, maybe some Cornelius Ingram vibes. What are your guys' thoughts?
And maybe faster than Cornelius, but athleticism-wise, similar. I seen this. They put a clip on the Twitter after he committed of him doing a jet sweep in and around type thing, and he took it to the crib. He hit something like 20-something miles per hour. A guy that I think could play on the defensive side of the ball as well, but a great get. I know Georgia was a guy that was a team that was in its recruiting. They landed 2 tight ends, so his recruitment came down to Auburn, I think Tennessee, Miami, and us. And he shut it down this weekend. We led for a while. In my mind, I was saying if he leaves this weekend not committed, we're not getting this kid, man. Right. Just a lot of times when you leave for so long and that kid don't pop, it's just like, he's looking for a reason not to come here at this point. But he popped. Russ Callaway. Shout out to Russ Callaway. He out here cooking. That was a good addition to the staff. I know we were all asking, or fans were asking about that hire when that hire was made. But he looks to be a solidified tight end recruiter, I would say. Big get for Russ Callaway. We got an absolute stud. I don't know if we're going for another tight end at this point, but right now, Amir Jackson is the deal. Top end speed. I think you could flex him outside. He could play some receiver just like Kyle Pitts did, or you could put him in line. Need to work on some blocking skill. He's a basketball player. I love that basketball players know how to position themselves, especially in the red zone, to body up defenders and all of that, man. So great get by the staff. Super elite. These are the type of players you need to get to make the offense explosive.
Right. And the Gators did lose Walter Matthews. He was a guy that was between USC and Florida, visited Florida a few weeks back. The allure of Los Angeles won him over. But, Florida's still recruiting. I know Jonathan Eccles, the Tennessee commit. I know that Caleb Odom is classified as a tight end, probably going to be an outside receiver. At least that's what Florida's recruiting him at. But if Florida just gets him, I think that he's a good quarterback. Obviously, we just talked about a basketball guy as well, put up 13 points, 11 rebounds last year. I know Silky mentioned it. I know Georgia was high on him. Miami was really high on him too. And they thought that maybe they could get his commitment as well. Auburn, Alabama, a number of other schools after him as well. So big get for that room. Gators desperately need skill at that position, and I think he's going to be a great fit for the Gators there. Right after that, the Gators grab Nazir Johnson, 6'4", 300-pound defensive lineman. From Dublin, Georgia. A little theme here on Saturday morning. The number 245 overall player, 26th defensive lineman in the country, and the number 31 overall player in Georgia. A guy that was on commit watch. We talked a little bit about him before. Highly ranked 4-star guy. I know 247 is a bit higher than on him than on 3 is, but a guy that had Florida State was after very heavily. I know the recruiter prediction machine had Florida State as the favorite to land him up until this past Saturday. I'm sorry?
They were the first to offer to get.
Yep. First to offer. South Carolina, Georgia, a number of other schools after him as well. LSU, I know, was high on him. But yeah, I mean, just a great get, a good player overall. Excited to see what he can continue to blossom into. I really liked his film from what I saw, but again, a great get for the Gators on Saturday.
A space eater, 6'5", 290, 300, and he could backflip. He might take over the AR pregame flipping role. This is my favorite commit for the class so far. I know we got some absolute studs, but I like dogs. I think he's a dog, a space eater. I do think he can work on that get off a little bit more, but the explosiveness is there if a kid that big can do flips. Similar to the German kid who can lay on his back and land on his feet. I think that's crazy for guys that big to be able to do these type of things. But Florida State offered first. They felt like they could land him. That started fading. He's from Georgia, another trench monster. We are huge in the trenches, man. No more of that under 300 pound in my trenches, bro. I'm excited about it. But a great get by the staff, man.
Yep.
My favorite commit so far.
That's speaking highly. There's a lot of talent in this class. Not to be outdone. Right after that, the Gators also grabbed Emeris Williams, defensive lineman as well, 6'2.5", 255 pounds, going to be an edge rusher from Clinton High School in Clinton, North Carolina, ranked as the 180th overall player, the number 21 defensive lineman, and the number 3 player in the state of North Carolina. A guy that I know on 3 or 247 Sports is really high on. They have him ranked as the 88th best player in the country. But again, a guy that I don't know if a lot of fans expected this commitment on Saturday. Was being heavily recruited by Penn State. And Silk, I want you to talk a little bit about Penn State's defensive line coach that I know is eating on the trail. But Penn State was very high on him. I know NC State, the hometown team there, and North Carolina were on him. Has offers from really all the schools under the sun that you can imagine. But a get that, again, as somebody that follows recruiting pretty closely, was not expecting Emeris Williams to commit.
Huge get, man. I was at my house. I thought you talking about a roller coaster of a ride of a day. You know what I'm saying? You're dealing with the Austin Simmons shenanigans, and then these fireworks that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks start firing off. And this wasn't one of the ones. I had no idea this kid was going to pop. I like where we stood in his recruitment, but like you said, I follow Penn State's recruiting very closely because Jawan Sider, that's my guy. So I talk to him every so often. I watch what they got going over there, but they got a defensive line coach, Deion Barnes, young guy, 30 years old. Williams just came off visiting Penn State. So I was like, bro, I don't know. I'm hearing good things about this young 30-year-old out of Penn State that can recruit the defensive line. But Coach Spencer said, hold my beer, Silk. I got something for you, bro. Got another wild dog, man.
Got another 352 wild dog. Shout out to him for wearing some Stadium and Gale merch in those photos. But Emeris Williams, again, another really solid prospect for the Florida Gators on that defensive line. They're eating, as the kids say.
Yeah, I like my man Rob in the comments. That get off. I was talking about Nazir need to work on his get off at the defensive tackle spot, but elite get off right here. A sack monster. We're gonna be getting off the edge, man. It's been a while since we had elite pass rushers. We've gotten some pass rushers, but we haven't had a Javon Curse type guy or Who's our
Jermaine
last?
Cunningham was close, but
I would
not
go
quite
with
the
Dante
same.
Fowler. When's our? We haven't had those. We had for 1 year. The transfer that Mullen brought in. I'm forgetting his
Jonathan
name.
Grenard.
But we haven't really gotten an elite pass rusher in a little minute. We also had. I'm missing somebody as well. What's the boy from?
Jonathan Grenard's got to be the best thing Todd Graham
Carlos
did
Dunlap?
for Florida.
No, it's another one that left too early. We thought, and he ended up struggling.
Jabari Zuniga.
Not Jabari. It's another one. Slim Cat. I'm forgetting his name. I'm so mad at myself right now. Kush not even.
Alex McAllister didn't leave too early. He was here a while.
No.
He was
No,
slim.
this was like Mullen's era. Jakai Polite.
Jakai
Polite. I like
Jakai
to
left
get
too
off
early,
edge.
man.
Yeah, he left too early.
Jakai saw the NFL bag, and people were like, maybe another year. But
Appreciate that,
I don't know
Rod.
if he's even
I
still in the
don't
league.
think he's
been
seeing the
bouncing
bag
around.
anymore.
Emeris
Emeris Williams,
NFL.
defensive tackle at Clinton High School, as you can imagine. Also a tight end and a running back. You don't often see 6'3", 270-pound running backs, but then there's Emeris Williams. Nick, you sound like you're working at a drive-through. It's Iowa internet. As somebody that lived in Iowa for a few years, still on 3G. And then let's see. And then finally, this was something that we expected to happen Sunday, but the Gators and the GOAT, Jay Bateman. What a day for Jay, huh? Give the guy an Embers dinner.
They fired this man last year, man.
Gators grabbed
Yes,
grabbed 6'3", 220-pound linebacker Aaron Childs, the number 109 overall player, the number 9 linebacker in the country. If you look at rivals, they have him ranked as the 59th overall player in the country, the number 5 linebacker in the country. But again, you look at the Gators class at linebacker. We're going to talk about Aaron Childs here in a second. But if you just look at that class, it is absolutely loaded between Adarius Hayes, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs. I know that there's another name that I'm missing there.
I think that's for the real backers. The other guys, I think they view as Buck Jacks type situations. Aaron Childs this is championship level talent that you're bringing into the program with this kid. Explosive athlete, gets sideline to sideline. This was a big upset. I asked the timeline, I think a few months ago, who they would rather have, Chris Jones or Aaron Childs. And everybody was like, Chris Jones, we're not getting Aaron Childs. And here we are, man. I didn't know at that time either. His dad's a big Michigan guy. For this to happen, I don't even think his dad was on the visit, so he found out a little later as well. Michigan boards are upside down right now at Harbaugh about this miss, man. But good get by the staff. I think R.J. Moulton, the Michigan transfer, was his host on the visit. Did a lot of good negative recruiting for the good guys. We appreciate that. But absolutely great get. Jay Bateman is that guy. Himothy right now.
Rod Smith, shout out to you. Appreciate the fun facts today. Aaron Childs went to the same high school as former Florida Gator linebacker Jelani Jenkins and Miami Dolphins legend Jelani Jenkins.
It's a Dolphin legend?
In my mind. we don't have a lot to hang our hat on.
Nah, just Dan Marino.
Miami Dolphins legend.
Miami Dolphins legend. So the Gators with Mekhi Boyeru that committed earlier today, the Gators right now are ranked 3rd overall on 247 with 14 commitments, a 91.02 average rating. Just eating on the trail right now. Eating on the trail. You have to scroll very far down to see any other school in the state of Florida there.
Yes, sir.
Apparently not for long.
You're selling coming off a 6-win season. I think everybody needs to take a step back and realize our reputation, hasn't been the greatest, and we're still dealing with a lot of just off the field stuff. It's just, a lot of shenanigans. But when you look at what they're selling 6 wins. The bowl game was a disaster. Quarterbacks are decommitting here and there, but these guys are in the top 5 recruiting class at the end of the day, and they don't have a lot to sell. You look at the top 15, you're not going to see anybody else with our type of record or our type of season recruiting at this level. So hats off to the staff. Everything ain't perfect. They can always get better, but we just fans, man. Be optimistic, vibe out. It's okay to be critical as well, but it's one thing being critical and whining. There's a difference in that. But overall, when it pertains to recruiting, I think we're in good hands.
Yeah.
I think we need to vet dads better on some real. You gotta sure up that you can't keep getting in the same situation.
Right.
It's a reoccurring theme, Once it becomes a trend, now it's a trend, So we gotta vet dads a little better and see where they at in the process, because both of these guys was weird dad endings, man. So we're gonna scrap 2023 quarterback, get Lagway on campus. His dad seems to be rational. We'll be all right.
Silk, I think you made a really good point. There's a difference between being critical and just complaining. There's a lot of people that just like to complain. You got to give the staff flowers, right? It's still not National Signing Day. Things still can happen, but we're going to talk about a few other players here in a second. Florida still sits in an incredible spot to really have one of the best recruiting classes that they've had since Muschamp, right? And I think what you have to remember about a lot of those Muschamp classes too, where they were so heavily dependent on the defense to bring up their average, Florida truly is going out and getting an elite quarterback, a top 10 tight end. They lose Chauncey Bowens, but Kanan Daniel, not a bad running back. They're still going after some more. Got to get some help in the wide receiver room and the offensive line. But then the defensive side of the ball, again, Spencer, defensive line or staff, killing it right now. Jay Bateman, number 2 recruiter in the country right now. Corey Raymond's going to get his guys. They're going to fill out that defense very nicely. But you have to look at where Florida is right now. You have to look to see where they were before. We've talked about it on the show so many times. Don't just look at star averages. Look at who's recruiting them. Micah Boyeru was a guy that Georgia was pressing to commit this past weekend. Georgia, 2-time defending national champion, was pressing for him to commit this weekend off of a Georgia visit, commits to Florida. You got to give the flowers where the flowers are due. So shout out to this coaching staff.
Right. And I was critical of the offensive line recruiting. Like everybody thinks sunshine pumpers, because if you don't whine, then people think you sunshine pumping. No, I could be critical and not be angry. You know what I'm saying? I think we need to improve the quality of the start average in the offensive line of recruiting. And like you said, Corey Raymond gonna get his guys, and I like some of the guys, and he's gonna do his due diligence. He's just not gonna take a guy and settle on his board. He's gonna keep digging and find the DBs he want. He's not looking at the rankings y'all looking at. There's some new guys that's popping on the board. Teddy Foster, that's from I think Sarasota, Florida.
Sarasota, yeah.
A guy that we had on campus this weekend for a visit. Miami. Before he came to our visit, he was on Miami's campus, and I think he's headed back to Miami this coming weekend for a visit. But a guy that we were on early, his sister just graduated from the University of Florida, so he's gonna do his due diligence, man. He's gonna find 6'2", 6'3" cornerbacks. He could easily press Wardell Mack, a guy that we had on an official visit that LSU want in their class. But he's value guys at a different frame. He has his own board. He's not looking at recruiting sites. And I think Teddy Foster is going to have that Jakeem Jackson rise in a little bit. Pause.
Yeah. Teddy Foster, a guy that I'm connected to pretty closely through a buddy of mine from Cardinal Mooney High School there in Sarasota, 6'2", 170-pound cornerback, guy that just started playing football a couple years ago, getting looked at by Georgia, getting looked at by Alabama, USC. I know Miami's really pressing hard for him. A 3-star guy now, doesn't have the best top-end speed, but could be a great boundary corner. And I think with more experience, more time under his belt, he's going to be a guy that, like you said, Silk, climbs up the rankings. Will it be as high as Jakeem Jackson? Who knows? But again, I know he's very high on Florida. I know Florida's very high on him. His recruiting is just starting to take off. A guy a few months ago didn't have any of these offers, and now all of a sudden he's starting to get some love. So he's going to let that process play out a little bit. But Florida really likes where they sit with him, and I can definitely see Teddy Foster being a member of this class in the not too distant future. Wardell Mack, a guy that you mentioned just now, Silk, as well, from John Ehret High School in Mario, Louisiana. guy that, is ranked highly. 247 composite has him ranked as the number 114 overall player in the country, number 3 player in Louisiana. Obviously, LSU's looking at him. Their room's getting pretty full. Spoke very highly about Florida on his visit. Don't think Florida is maybe as high, or he's as high on Florida's list as he might be on Florida. But again, a guy that Florida's looking, and trust me, Corey Raymond's going to get his guys.
Already. Another thing going on Teddy, he didn't play football till his sophomore year in high school. So we all know what recruiting is now, especially in the state of Florida. People started getting offers in 6th, 7th grade these days, bruh. So a guy that just started playing football as a sophomore, and so his recruiting got off to a late start. But you're going to see the who's who. I think Muschamp also reached out to him, try to get him on Georgia's campus for a workout. I don't know if he makes that workout. He's supposed to visit USC out west as well, but he's going to make that Miami visit. From what I read with Keith Niebuhr on 3, I think it's a July decision. I think he's going to make that Miami visit and then make a decision in like July.
Yeah, he just got off camping at a few different schools as well with his team. I know he's got some other visits planned, but yeah, he's a guy that, talking with some people close to his camp, wants to make that decision, like you said, in July before the season starts, and then really focus on continuing to get better. I do want to give a shout out. We appreciate you, Rob, for the super chat donation. $10 for every recruit we got. Rob. Big money, Rob. Nick, this is probably a question for you. Florida went in with, I think, 81 or 82 scholarships. They are going to move, I think, Khalil Jackson or keep him on scholarship. Florida may have 1 or 2 more scholarships. What do you think Florida might do now that Austin Simmons is not going to be in this class?
Yeah, I don't think you're adding anyone else, which is good news for, a guy like Adam Mahalik. Good news for a guy like Khalil Jackson. Guys that get put on scholarship in the spring and summer tend to lose those scholarships when you get the whole signing class in. So if you have some extra scholarships, I think that's good news for those guys. And you're still playing a catch-up game. I think it's different now with the transfer portal. But it's almost like I think Billy is prioritized buying the groceries and cooking from scratch rather than, getting those meals ready packed. Like he's shout out to HelloFresh, not a sponsor. So not shout out to HelloFresh.
No, shout out them boys, man.
Yeah, we're not shouting them out.
Billy's going to Whole Foods. He's not getting a meal subscription service, and Billy's going to Whole Foods, not getting also not a sponsor. What am I doing? Yeah. Billy's going to your local grocery store, your farmer's market, and getting fresh ingredients. Not getting ready-made meals in the transfer portal like some other schools. But it's a process. You can flip your roster, but look, Mel Tucker flipped his roster, had one great year, got a fat bag. And Michigan State's trash right now.
I like the finesse job. That's
Hey, Mel's on that Ed O plan. Mel's like, damn, they gave Ed O how much money for one good year? I can do that.
Clever move.
So I don't know. I'd have to look at the transfer portal. They've obviously shown too that they're not just taking guys to fill scholarship numbers. You don't really have a cap on how many you can get in a class, so you can have a bigger class next year when you consider guys who maybe were only on scholarship in 23 because they had scholarships available. And I don't even like saying it like that because it's a really cool story. Guys that walk on and are paying their own way and not getting a lot of the perks of being on scholarship, like food and stuff like that, but academic advising, being able to have a tutor to help you with your school that you're paying for. So I don't see Florida really adding anyone else through the transfer portal for this season. But you'll be able to have a bigger recruiting class and a bigger transfer portal class next year with the guys that will be leaving.
Which makes more sense. There's no quick way to rebuild this thing, man. You got to build it from the ground up. I like the classes that they're bringing in. I would like to supplement the transfer portal, that process a little bit better. I thought we could have did a little bit better with bringing some guys in this cycle, but everything's not going to be perfect. But the only true build, the only way to really win championships is the high school level recruiting. You know, you want to average around 7 within 3-4 years to be competing for playoffs. That's what the science they're saying. So you got to be around that average. And right now, I like us in the top 5. We'll see where we can close at.
Yeah.
The coaching staff didn't value the talent in the spring transfer portal maybe the same way that we did, or the same way the staff did, or the same way the fans did. And it's like you said earlier, Silk, it's like they're not going off of On3's rankings. The coaching staff's not going off 247 or Rivals rankings. They've got their own evaluation period. And I got on my soapbox and talked about how I don't think that the portal is speed dating, and they're like courting like it's the 1800s, where you got to meet grandma and mom and dad and sit in the living room together and talk about what church y'all are going to get married at before you even hold hands. I think they see more value, definitely in this class, but I think in general, the way that they're going to move, they see more value in the fall portal than the spring portal. That'll change, if a Grayson McCall kind of quarterback would have popped into the portal in the spring, that would have changed the way that they were operating, but they didn't see that value this year.
It's also, you got to read the room of when you want to go all in. Like Florida, because we're natural as fans, they're watching other programs, right? When you see Florida State, they're going all in, and they're going to push their chips forward and be sad leaving Vegas, but they're going all in, so they're spending money on some of these transfers to come in because they think they could go do something this year and make a splash. But if you go on their message boards today, you'll see a lot of fans is questioning this number 18 class and how stable, is this. We kept saying, is this sustainable? It was a catchword in the early 2023, but that is rearing its head again on their message boards. Is how sustainable is it living in the portal? Because every year they're not going to go all in. This is Travis's last year. They want to make the best of it. We'll see what quarterback look like next year, but they went all in because they're trying to make some type of run. There was really no reason for us to reach and go all in, because there's money involved in this as well. It ain't just come play at my school. You're also playing salaries a little bit.
Absolutely. Do want to talk about somebody just mentioned in the chat as well, Jamonta Waller from Picayune, Mississippi. He is the number 28, the number 71 overall prospect, according to the 247 composite, the number 7 edge rusher, number 2 player in Mississippi. 247 Sports as a whole has him ranked as a 5-star and the number 28 overall player. Looked at Ole Miss, obviously thinks very highly of Ole Miss, Auburn, Penn State, kind of a recurring theme here, Texas A&M and Alabama. But Florida, I know, did a very good job of recruiting him on this weekend as well. So I think that he's a July announcement as well. Still
August. I think 26 is his birthday or something like that. Let me look at my notes. I think he's an August decision. Really good guy. Yeah, August 26th. I know he's an edge jack guy. Mississippi guy. I need some get back. Lane Kiffin started deleting tweets after trolling my coach. I need some get back. I think he was starting to feel the smoke. Like, I don't know, man. There's some rumors that this kid may pop out there. Let me delete some tweets. But I need some get back for that, man. So hopefully we just keep recruiting. We're resilient when it pertains to that. Every time I read some kids, it's just like it's forced to contact. This staff don't fall asleep at the wheel with staying in contact. So keep recruiting. Maybe we can get them back in the Friday night lights before it's decision again, because we got that on the horizon. But I like where we at in this recruiting. If we get him, Lane Kiffin got to block me. I might get suspended again.
Oh man. It's tough to get kids from Mississippi out of Mississippi. Like kids that Ole Miss and Mississippi State want. It's tough to get those kids out of the state. It's just it's what they know. It's what they've always known. There's no professional sports in Mississippi. You grow up rooting for Cowbells or Rebels, one of the two.
Land Sharks. Black Bears.
Land Sharks. Something.
They still have the Black Bear? Is that still a thing?
I don't know. I listen, it's the state of Mississippi. I think they rebelled against the Black Bear.
Yeah, they probably got him up out of there.
He got him up out of there.
The Rebels rebelled against being called the Black Bears. I know Ole Miss's baseball team. It just says Rebels across their chest. I don't think they're Don't think
It was a
maybe
bad
they just
bit-
maybe they were
Brandon play, making the Bears
maybe they
black
retired. maybe
in Mississippi.
maybe they retired. Maybe they retired Old Red, the mascot.
Maybe so. Maybe so. There is another name to potentially be on the lookout for today at 1 p.m. That name is Marcus Mascall from South Gwinnett High School in Snellville,
Down
Georgia.
in Georgia. I'm just playing.
6'4.5", 292 pounds, offensive tackle, a 3-star guy has finalists of LSU, NC State, and Florida, offered by a number of other schools as well. But may want to stay tuned if you're watching live at 1 p.m. for that announcement. Then I think that kind of closes out recruiting for now.
Ty Hilton.
Yes.
That's one to watch as well. I think it's a big 3 battle. Tennessee and Penn State may be sprinkled in there. But I think it's a big 3 battle. He said that he had a great weekend and was on, and the excitement, everybody popping that, he felt like he could have done it as well. But that's one to watch, regardless of his star ranking. He's out of Oviedo, local kid. I think he has a lot of upside, but that's one to watch.
Yep, 6'4", 270 pounds, like you said, Silk, from Oviedo High School. Looks like a grown man out there. Offers from Florida, Florida State, Miami, Penn State, being recruited by Phil Trotwine, I believe, at Penn State there. But that would be a name as well to be on the lookout for. Don't be confused. His name is Tyhylton, not to be confused by famed Indianapolis Colts.
FIU Hall of Fame legend Ty Hilton.
That's right.
Shout out to those Panthers down there at FIU.
The Gators.
Best thing that ever happened to FIU.
I know the Gators are also. I just saw what you sent there, Nick. But I know the Gators are recruiting, obviously, a number of wide receivers as well. I know that there was a question there. No update. Jeremiah Smith is a guy that's going to keep playing the game. Don't really see much happening there. Silk, have you heard any word on any new wide receivers that Florida may be going after?
Tawaski Abrams was on campus this weekend, the Florida State commit.
Oh, yep.
He's a slot guy. Very fast, 10-6. Man, riding passenger side and Billy backup whip, man. You know what I'm saying? Flicking it up on the gram. I like his vibes. He's going to Florida State this weekend. He was at Texas A&M last weekend. Speedster. I like his top end speed. You got to get speed on the field, and Billy and them guys value top end speed, verified top end speed. I think he's going to flip. He says he's about 75% committed to Florida State. He's going to make a final decision in July, is what he said about Keith Niebuhr and those guys on 3.
Yeah, I know that he's a flip watch guy.
Yeah, he's a flip watch guy. So receiver there, I like where we're at with it as far as receiver. Dre Hawkins, I expect Penn State to land like 3 receivers here in the next week or 2. And I don't think he's going to be one of those guys. And I think he's down to us in Penn State. So we'll see where we at with that. But I don't know how many receivers we take. We got one committed. If you take those 2, then you might just want to hold a spot to see what happens with JoJo Trader or Jeremiah Smith at the end. Keep recruiting those guys. They still like Caleb Odom as a receiver, even though he's listed as a tight end. So you got some guys in the receivers. There's another guy too, Bussey. I think they could get into his recruiting. Terry Bussey out of Texas. He has a relationship with DJ Lagway. So I know they're still trying to get him on campus. Hopefully we can get some of these guys in at Friday Night Lights. They bringing a lot of former greats back on campus. It should be a lot of fireworks when it pertains to just, social media and everybody paying attention to the University of Florida. I know the media team is going to do their thing that day. But Friday Night Lights, hopefully they can get some of these guys on campus that day, and we'll see what it do. We still got another opportunity.
And I know Nye Carr, who is committed to Georgia, previously visited Florida. I know that he's talked about having an official visit to Florida as well. So, definitely a lot of moving parts, moving pieces. So appreciate you being a little bit more in the know and appreciate all the comments there as well. But I do expect some more fireworks this week for Florida Gators on the recruiting trail. Solidly in third place. We'll probably stay in third place this week, but again, building a really good balanced class with a lot of great talent there. I know there was a question earlier about defensive lineman Derek LeBlanc, who was part of the 2023 class from Osceola High School there in Kissimmee. Went to Oklahoma, visited Florida, 20 times, but did get a commit to Oklahoma, put himself in the transfer portal. It's our understanding that Florida's not recruiting him to join, the staff this year.
The team. We damn sure don't want him on the staff.
Or I'm sorry, to be on the team this year or staff. No staff positions are available.
Good, yeah. But yeah, LeBlanc, you just got to make wise decisions with.
Let's see, Silk. I think you're frozen.
All right,
you're back. You're back now. You got to make wise decisions. Chance Robinson is a guy that could potentially be on.
I didn't even say Chance.
Watch. Yeah, we forgot to mention Chance, a guy that is committed to Miami. Kind of came out of the blue when he did commit to Miami a few months ago. Was on campus again. I know that he's another guy that's on flip watch too. So who knows the way that Florida might play this? If you're able to flip Chance Robinson, you're able to flip Abrams. You flip two kids from your rivals in state. Florida's sitting in a really good spot recruiting wise, and no matter what John Ruiz and his failing companies, say, I really like the way that Florida's sitting right now in recruiting. And please, for the love of God, stay out of my mentions. What?
Dan, portfolio review. How are you doing as a
Terrible.
shareholder?
I feel terrible in the fact that the CEO of a company is again just indulging himself in internet trolls instead of getting Q1 financials out just 11 days before the end of Q2. And we also have material issues from last year.
Did you get your Q4 from last year?
It had material issues with it. All of my financials are either non-existent or have material issues that we need to handle. And as shareholders, it's almost time for us to call a meeting and potentially make a move at the highest level. We're not there yet. I don't own enough shares to make that call on my own, but I will absolutely be a part of those calls when they
should buy some more shares.
I will not be buying more shares. I will not be buying more shares.
Rob just donated half the company.
I could, yes. With Rob's money, we could potentially have a hostile takeover.
Yeah, probably. I do want to say Darius Hayes recruiting. He's supposed to be locked in with us. I'm just gonna keep it a bean. He was on Miami's campus this past weekend. I'm hearing some word that it was a whole team trip. The coach's daughter is being recruited or something by Miami, so they took a trip down there. He put some pictures out. That is one to watch. I think we're fine, but they are pressing to flip him. They are they got him very high on their board when it pertains to recruiting and linebacker and all that. We'll see where we at with. I haven't heard any word back from him, Darius himself. I'm pretty sure the writers will get on that, but that's one to watch.
All right. I think that brings us to the end of the show. We do have to give a shout out to our friends over at Alumni Hall. Go check them out. They have the national champion stuff from track, from golf. They will have it when the Gators win the national championship in baseball as well. But go check them out, alumnihall.com, or go visit them on Archer Road. It is almost football season. They will have the new coaches polos when those come out, I would imagine, in the next few weeks. But go check them out, alumnihall.com or on Archer Road.
Florida's come from behind win against Virginia on Friday was their 21st come from behind win of the year. And they released a Relentless Reptiles shirt on Saturday morning. I think.
Relentless Reptiles. I love it. All right. Who has song of the week? I think it's me.
I had it last week.
I think so. All right. So what
some
are we
heat,
gonna do
man.
here? Any final thoughts before we get out of here and while I pick a song?
No, that's all I got. We got some more fireworks today. I think it's going to be a good summer for us, man. You got to look where, having a little resolve and a little patience can get you. Don't lose your you know what I was about to say. Don't lose your head. Vibe out a little bit. Just relax. Let the professionals be professionals. The media guys and the content creators will create our content. Everybody be fans. But we don't have to lose our mind over this, man. It's still fun. It's still a game. I'm going to always enjoy whether a kid ends up at University of Florida or somewhere else. That ain't going to stop me from cheering in the fall. I'm still pulling up my orange and blue on no matter who we get, right? I mean, there's so many kids that have just went and so-called flaked on the University of Florida. And, 3 years you look back and was like, man, I lost my mind over that kid's recruitment. It's just not just vibe, man. None of these kids are going to shut the door to the University of Florida.
Nick, any final thoughts?
Let's see. Blake said, how's pitching set up? Cags will throw on Wednesday. Florida plays at 2 p.m., 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Wednesday. Jack Caglione will throw Wednesday. If Florida wins, then they're in the College World Series final. If they lose, then they play in an elimination game on Thursday. If you think back to 2017, that's the same kind of thing happened. Jackson Coher was set up, lost to TCU in that third game, and then Florida had to burn Alex Faedo to get into the College World Series final, and then went Brady Singer, Tyler Dyson. So Florida, if they win or lose, I believe Brandon Sproat would throw that next game, either Thursday if you lost, which would be a one-day short rest, or he would throw on Saturday with an extra day of rest in the first game College World Series final. So going 2-0 allows you to save your pitching staff. Critically important. I said earlier in the show, I think that winning game 2 is almost more important than winning game 1, because if you lose game 1, you're up the creek without a paddle as it is already. So Florida's set up really, really well. As I've said all year long, with the 3 starting pitchers Florida has, I like them in a best-of-3 series every weekend. They only lost 2 best-of-3. Out of 16, they went 14-2 in 3-game series this year. 15-2 if you include the Super Regional. So they're set up pretty well.
Already. Y'all, I'm invested now. So big anxiety on Wednesday. I'll make sure I have the proper tools at hand to get through that game, man. I hope the bats get hot and we blow them out, but
that would be nice.
I'm invested now.
Been two late nights. Thought it was happening yesterday as well.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
All right, gentlemen. Well, this was a great show. Thanks, everybody that tuned in. Listen, please make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Please make sure you subscribe. Please make sure you support our sponsors. We're only growing. We have big plans for this upcoming football season. We're working on a really exciting new thing with a new bar concept in Gainesville for this July or August. So we'll have some announcement when that's coming out. Just stay tuned.
At a real corner at a real time.
Yeah, at a real corner at a real time. We appreciate the super chat. Shout out to you, Rob. As always, we appreciate all you guys that are watching this show. And with that being said, I think we're gonna take us out with a great song by Lost Kings featuring Wiz Khalifa. The song is called "Don't Kill My High." So
I gotta check that one out. I heard that
it's a banger. It's a great song. As always, we appreciate you guys joining. We will see you at the same corner, same time next week. And I think there'll be a couple commits to talk about. We'll see you guys.